by the water.
Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Look here. Now, the situation is getting deep. The DA has sent an assistant out to talk to Bill about this situation, and Bill has signed a contract with them stating that they're not going to oppose his parole. They're going to also send a letter to the parole board when the day comes that he goes up that he was instrumental in helping solve a case if it turns out that this is the situation. So he's going to get everything that he wants. So he has to continue to get information from Carl so that he will continue to be useful to the DA. But in the meantime, in between time, somebody in the DA's office decides to call Allan's lawyer and tell him that they need permission to talk to Allan about the case. Because, again, like I say, Allan said he was innocent from day one. But Allan's lawyer tells them, hold up, wait a minute, let me go talk to my client first, and then I'll let you know what he wants to do. You know what I'm saying? So Allan's lawyer goes out to the prison to see him. And he tells Allan that the DA's office, had called him and let him know that they were looking into his case because they had gotten some information that might point to him actually being innocent. Maybe. They always say maybe because they understand the implications that can come behind a wrongful conviction. That's lawsuit territory. It happens all the time, y'all. All the time. So they always say maybe. So he's talking to Allan and he's asking Allan, do you know what's going on? Do you have any idea who it could be that's providing this information to the DA? And he has no clue. As far as he knows, everybody in there, they know that he didn't do it, but nobody's talking to him in a way that's like they're trying to help him. He's just going to the law library every day. But what his lawyer knows is there's somebody in this prison with him. There's somebody in this prison that is providing information that can help him. And Allan has no clue who this person is. No clue whatsoever at all who this person could be. So he tells Allan that the DA wants to come out and talk to him. Is that okay? And he was like, about what? It's nothing that I can tell them. Everything that I'm telling you is what I know. Nothing. He said they'll probably want to talk to you about the scene that day of the shooting because you were there and you ran and you scattered. They probably want to know who was there. So Allan tells him, yeah. I tell him whatever I need to tell him as far as what I can remember. He said, but it was a lot of people up there. So Allan's lawyer, he tells me, he said, look, they're just looking for one name. So Allan asked, who is it? He said, I don't know. They won't tell me that. And they're not going to tell you. He said, but what they're going to do, that when they come and question you, they're going to ask you to name every person that you can remember that was on the scene. He said, so you need to be thinking about that, trying to remember. And Allan was willing to do it. He wants to go home. He don't care nothing about none of this stuff about snitching or nothing. He wants out of the penitentiary. But he knows that he has to be careful. Because if it's somebody in the penitentiary that's providing information, right, that means it was somebody that was there or somebody that knows somebody that was there, right? He knows it's not the actual person. Because if it was the actual person, then that he would really be in danger. So the way his lawyer talked to him, he knows this person is not in the penitentiary. And if he was in danger, they would have already locked him up. They would have already locked him up, put him in protective custody. So he tells his lawyer, man, tell him to come on, man. I tell him everything that I know. But tell him, don't come out here as no DA. Can't be seen talking to the DA. And then his lawyer tells him, they already know, they already understand that. So the DA, when Allan's lawyer goes back, he calls and tells the DA it's fine, whatever the case may be, you can go see him. He said, but I want to know everything that's being discussed. I want a copy of everything that's going to be discussed. They agree to that. But they say this is an ongoing investigation and you can't read into anything that, any information that we're going to get. And they're not going to give him any of the information that they already have. They're just going to give him whatever information they get out of his client. So the lawyer, she goes after the DA. She goes after, she's talking to him. She's asking about the scene and what was going on at the time and who was around and everything, trying to make sure that his memory is intact. And he tells her everything that he can remember. He's thought about this for a couple of days, and he remembers everybody that he can, that was there, and to the best of his knowledge, and he writes it all down. And when he gets out there, he gives her the list. And she looks over the list, and he's trying to read her body language for any clue about did that list help them in it. So he's looking at that list while she's looking at that list, and her body language is stoic. She's not saying anything. She's not doing anything. She didn't smile. She just looked at the list, opened up her briefcase, and slid that piece of paper in there. She said, "Is there anything else you can tell me about that day?" And he said, "No, ma'am. Nothing more than I've already told you." She said, "Again, tell me why you were arguing." And he told her, he said, because the dude owed him some money for some drugs. And the dude was telling him he wasn't going to pay. He said, Allan told her, this dude here is what we call a po paymaster. He hustles, he gets money, but he's slow on paying his debts. See, and that information was vital to the DA. See, Allan didn't even realize that. Because if he owed Allan, come on now, y'all with me now. I know y'all, especially the y'all that's in the streets. Y'all know what it is. If he owed Allan, he owed somebody else. And now it was an issue of who else did he owe? Was this a debt that was being paid back to him because he couldn't pay or he wasn't paying? Or was this something more? Had somebody contracted with somebody to do this because he owed them money? So now they did a deep dive into the victim. A deep dive. I'm talking about they went by his family's house, talked to his mother, his relatives, everybody, trying to get some kind of idea of how heavy he was in the game. What kind of money was he playing with? What kind of dope was he playing with? All of these types of questions. So his mother, she started to ask her, like, why are you asking this? And she told her, the DA told her, we have a lot more concerns about this, and we're not so sure about what the outcome is. It may be more people involved, right? She didn't tell her that the person that's in prison for it may not be the one. She said it's more people that may be involved in this. So now the mother who thought this was over, and that's what I want you to understand too about the anxiety that the victims' families go through. The mother that thought this was over, all of a sudden was reminded that it might not be. And her anxiety went up. And she was like, oh my God, what was my son into? So she cooperated fully. The things that she wanted to not put on her son, she knew that she had to now. She knew that she had to tell the DA about all of the shenanigans that her son was up to that could have potentially led to him being killed in the way that he was killed, because she didn't want this for her grandchildren. She didn't want this for her grandchildren, and she didn't want to be that person that withheld information because of some code in the streets. The streets had taken her son. The streets had taken her son, and she didn't want any parts of that. So she told the DA everything that she knew, who he dealt with. So they're building a real thorough picture of the victim. They're getting a thorough picture of him. And they're starting to notice that he was dealing with a lot of people. And he had his hands in a lot of different issues. And he was all over the place. And one of the things that the detective that worked for the DA's office found out is that he was dealing with a lot of people. and his reputation was that he can pay, but he's slow. He's a money getter, but he's slow. They're finding out that their victim may have been in over his head because he liked money. He liked the chase. He liked the thrill of the game. So he was deep into it, and he was doing all of these things. So now the investigation had transcended Bill. You know, the information that he had provided them, the name of the individual that he had provided them based off of Carl running his mouth when he getting high on that liquor and that weed. Now they're starting to develop a picture of this dude. And this dude has a reputation in the streets as being a stick-up kid. But if it's one thing we all know, see, people that live the life of a stick-up kid, a hitman ain't too far-fetched to believe. Hitman ain't too far-fetched to believe. Because when they started to look into the background of the name of the individual that Bill gave them that Carl said did the killing, they started to find out that he likes money. He don't care how he get it, but he ain't a dope boy. He ain't a dope boy. So he might sell some dope, but he ain't a dope boy. He's selling what he gets when he robs, just to get it off. But they also understand that he's living caper to caper, scheme to scheme. So he's always looking for a way to come up. And when you're dealing with people like that in the streets, y'all, let me tell you something. When you're dealing with people like that in the streets, a human life becomes part of the transaction. It's just what it is. That's why I want to emphasize in every one of the shows that I do and whatever I say on my podcast that this life is not the type of life that you should want. There's too many different layers of evilness to it. And I understand the allure. I understand the attraction that some people have, right? But that's like having an attraction to dope. You do it the first time, it makes you feel good and you laughing and this and you that. But the next time you do it, you're not laughing as much as you were the first time. And the next time you do it, you're not laughing at all. You're doing it because you need it or you think you need it. But it's killing you. And that's how the game is. It'll twist you up into a ball, twist you up into knots. So they're getting a picture of this individual that they think is the shooter. So they go back to the prison and they go visit Allan. And they ask Allan, does he know this individual? And he tells them that he knows of him. He tells me he's a stick-up kid. That's what he do. And so they asked him, is there anything else that you can tell us about him? You say he was there. What was he doing? And Allan sits there and he thinks about it. He ponders on it for a while. And he had been doing that anyway, thinking about that day and everything that happened. But now he had a specific memory to try to recall. And he thought and he thought and he thought as she sat there looking at him. And he remembers seeing this individual just walking around. He wasn't shooting dice. He wasn't standing on the block running down sales. He was just in and out of traffic. In and out of traffic. Not really doing anything, just in and out of traffic. But see, what that is, that's stalking your prey. You understand? See, dude was stalking his prey. He was on the hunt. He was looking for an opportunity. And Allan gave him one. When he saw Allan arguing with this dude, the light bulbs went off over his head. This is it. I can pop him down now. And because dude is the one arguing with him, he got to deal with it, not me. It's all about opportunity. And he saw an opportunity. And it worked. So he told the DA what he remembered, and she wrote it all down. She wrote it all down. So she leaves. And now Allan is just caught up. He's like, this is really happening. This is really happening. But she didn't give him any indication of what could happen and all this and that. He just knew that they were looking into it. But he knew he had been familiar enough with this stuff that once they find out he didn't do it, it was a process that would have to take place that he would end up getting out. So he was happy, but he was keeping it to himself. He was keeping it to himself. And then one day he was in the law library. And when he was in the law library, guess who he runs into? Guess who he runs into? He runs into Bill. He never met Bill before. Never met this man before. Bill speaks to him. He said, what's up, man? How you doing? Allan looks at him and says, I'm cool. What's up? Because you got to be leery in here when you run up on people. You know what I'm saying? People run up on you and introduce themselves and all this and that, and you've never met them and you don't have any introduction from them. What is this for? It's always an agenda in here. Keep that in mind, all right? So when Bill speaks to him, he puts his hands out. He wants to shake his hand. He said, man, I heard about your situation. Oh, the light bulbs went off in Allan's head then. Because now it's like everybody is talking about this. And he wonders, is this the person that initiated this? Is this the person that's cooperating with the DA? So Allan just looks at him. And he was like, yeah, appreciate that, man. You know? He said, yeah, but I'm getting some traction on that, man. I talked to my lawyer. My lawyer said that they've discovered some things went on with my case. Now, Allan watching him. He's trying to read his body language for any sign that he's the one. But Bill know that. Bill know what he's looking for. So Bill, he looking back at him, not giving him any indication that it's him because he don't want to blow wreck, right? But because both of them are trying so hard not to give away what they're trying to do, both of them realize at the same time, yeah, he knows and he the one. Both of them realized at the same time. But they just stopped and they stared at each other, but they didn't say a word. Bill put his hand, he said, man, good luck. Allan put his hand back out, you know what I'm saying, shook his hand. He said, thank you. Both of them knew what that meant. Both of them knew what that meant. Bill was saying good luck to you on what's about to happen to you. And Allan was telling him, thank you for what you did for me. Just like that. And they both walked away. They both walked away. And now Allan had something to think about. This person that had helped him, he had looked into him and he learned that this dude had a life sentence. So he's saying, why would he help me? Why would he help me? See, Allan didn't have enough understanding of sentences and all this and that to know that, you know, with a life sentence, you do get to go off for parole depending on what year you got the life sentence. And when you do go up, that more than likely you're going to get put off. He didn't understand that Bill was trying to make sure that didn't happen to him. No, he wouldn't walk straight out the penitentiary. But he wanted to be helpful so that when the time came for them to make a decision about what they wanted to do with him, that they would not get in the way of him being released. Because they could rest assured if he was willing to help somebody in this situation, that they wouldn't have to worry about him when he got out. But something happened. A twist came. They made an arrest. And when they went to pick up the dude that actually did the killing, his lawyer came to see him and he was talking because he helped his lawyer on retainer. His lawyer was down there day one when they put him in the jail. And he had gotten at the DA to find out what was going on, and the DA told him, we got some information that he's the actual shooter and we have the gun. So that information is what the lawyer told the alleged shooter. So the shooter knew, but a handful of people know that he had thrown that gun in the river. And Carl was one of them. The rest of them was on the streets. Carl was the only one in the penitentiary. So he started thinking, man, I know this fool ain't told the police on me, much as we've been through. Well, It's a thing called motion of discovery, y'all. It's a thing called motion of discovery. And when you get the motion of discovery, it basically lays out the evidence and witnesses that are going to be against you, right? Carl's name wasn't on it. Carl's name wasn't on it. And Bill, at this point, didn't care that his name was on it either. He was past all that. He was past all that. And let me tell y'all something about that, about people in here. After you've been in here for a while, a lot of people get over that. They just want to get out and go home. All this loyalty to the code and all this. And they keep thinking it's real. Keep thinking it's real. Being here running your mouth about something, somebody overheard, and pop goes the weasel because the weasel goes pop. I'm telling you now. So he didn't see Carl's name on there. He didn't see Carl's name on there. But what he did get, his lawyer, in the information was that information from Carl to Bill led to this. So now Carl gets a letter from the shooter's girlfriend telling him that his seller, Bill, had provided information to the DA about conversations that he had had with him that led to her boyfriend being arrested. And here we go. Here we go. That led to it all. Now, all of a sudden, Bill and Carl are fighting. They fight. But Bill ain't going. He ain't going. Now, keep in mind, they the folks, though, right? They the folks. Both of them the folks. And they getting it on. They getting it on. Now, folks never hear about it. They hear about the fight. So they bring both of them into the circle. And then they start to lay it out. And they listen. Bill, at this point, he fed up. He tell them the whole story. I'm telling y'all now, he tell the whole story, lay it out from A to Z, what he did. Period. Man, folks and them looked at him, and half of them looked at him like, you rat. The other half looking at him like, man. I said, it ain't like he telling on nobody, because the dude that did the shooting is a peon. Y'all hear what I just said? They didn't care that he was telling on the peon. They didn't see it as snitching. Because they were looking at it like, man, everybody know this dude didn't do this. Everybody know this dude didn't do this. So they started, half of them tripping on Carl, the other half tripping on Bill. But now the administration done heard about it. So now they coming. They snatch all three of them up. And when I say all three of them, I'm talking about Bill, Carl, and Allan. Throw them all in the hole on administrative segregation. Separate them from the compound. Period. Because they don't want nothing to kick off. Guess why? Because the shooter is being transferred to the penitentiary. Not the same one that they're being they're in, but another. And they don't want this to bleed over into anything. Because it has the potential of doing that. It has the potential of doing that. After about 6 months, they end up charging dude with the case. They filed motions in court to have the sentence vacated on Allan so he could get out. Bill ends up going to court, testifying about the situation. And then after that, they put him on protective custody. He had about 5 more years before he went up for parole. And he felt comfortable that he was going to get out, so he didn't care to even stay back there. They shipped him to another prison. Had a little trouble there, put him on PC, shipped him to another prison, and kept him on PC for a while. They eventually let him out because the population had changed over. And nobody really knew what it was that, he was in the back for. So he was able to make it till he went up for parole, and then they released him. And when they released him, Carl, he's stuck in the penitentiary with the dude that actually did the shooting. Bill and Allan both out. And they kick it every week. Allan takes him out to eat somewhere because Bill a little older. He takes him out to eat somewhere because he really appreciates what he did. Now, let's go back to my question. What would you do if you knew some information like that? They could put you at risk, but also could help somebody. Would you say something? Street code or not? Let me know what you think. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.